Hey, it's Newf Nukem back with another video, and this one was inspired by Triple Cup Chuck, who kind of challenged the community to do a video game challenge of sorts to talk about and show off their video game collection. Now, if you guys have listened to me over the past, year or so, you would know that Newf Nukem still prefers his medium, physically. I do have plenty of digital games as well, but whenever I can, I try to buy stuff physically. So I thought I'd kind of give you a rundown on the collection that I have right now. It's smaller than it used to be because I traded in my Xbox One at one point. I know, bad, right? And basically in that process, I lost some of my games. But let's start at the top of this pile, shall we? Let's work our way up. Yes, you can see some PlayStation stuff in there, and I'll get to that in just a moment. All right, let's start at the very top of the pile, folks. We've got Gears of War 4. Yes, it is one of my favorite games of all time. It's a fantastic addition to the franchise. Love Gears of War. It's one of the biggest reasons I own and play Xbox. So Gears of War 4, baby, that's where we start. Let's move down to one of the greatest action RPGs of all time, and is on the top 3 of many people's list, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Haven't really completed this one yet, but I'm loving the parts that I have played. Now we get down to one of the grandpappies of the music rhythm games. Guitar Hero Live was the latest release by Activision to bring this one out. Still a lot of fun. I don't think it's as good as some of the older games in the series, but overall, solid entry if you like this kind of thing. We have Call of Duty Ghost, the last Call of Duty game that I thoroughly enjoyed before they went all space trooper and bullshit on us. So Call of Duty Ghost, graphically not the most impressive entry in the franchise. I mean, it was pretty much the last of the last gen Call of Duties for the most part, but still a solid entry. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. We have Disney Infinity, a fantastic game that if you've never tried it, I encourage you to pick it up. Unfortunately, it suffered the fate of kind of getting canned, but it is a pretty decent game graphically, plus with all the characters and stuff that you can buy, you can really add and make this game kind of your own. A lot of fun. We have Ghost Recon Wildlands. I've always been a big fan of Ghost Recon, and this is another great entry in the franchise as they kind of go open world, give you the chance to explore and do things at your own pace. Plus, you can play this one with buddies as well. So it is, again, a lot of fun. We have Assassin's Creed Unity. I know this was a dumpster fire on release, but they since patched it with a lot of patches, and it's not a bad game. Plus, it's one of the few entries, if maybe the only one, if I could think correctly, that has cooperative play at various points in the game. I like that, actually. Graphically, it's actually quite good as well when they fix the glitches. We've got Rocksmith. This is kind of like Guitar Hero, but for people that actually want to learn how to play a real guitar or have a real guitar and know how to play it. It's a little more difficult, but it's still a ton of fun, and I highly recommend it if for the music enthusiast in your household. Maybe that's yourself. We've got Wolfenstein. It's one of the latest games that I bought, and yes, I know this game came out several years ago, but Wolfenstein: A New Order, fantastic game. I am so embarrassed to say that I just picked this up recently and finished it and loved every minute of it. Fantastic game. Definitely made me excited to buy the new one. We have WWE 2K16. I'm not a big fan of WWE games. The last time I really enjoyed them was back on the N64 era, but this one's actually not too bad. I enjoyed it for the most part, and if you're a wrestling fan, well, there's only one company that makes wrestling games, so I guess you got to put them in your collection. Ride 2, just recently picked this up. Now, I'm a fan of racing games in general, but I love motorcycles. And there's not a lot of great motorcycle games out there, obviously. They're few and far between, but this one's quite good. It's a bigger improvement over the original Ride, and it's done by Milestone, who has a lot of experience making motorcycle games. So if I came across this on a good deal, couldn't refuse it, picked it up. I highly suggest if you love racing and you love motorcycles, pick up Ride. Let's get down to the collection. All right, here we go. Forza 5. This is the game, the very first Xbox One game that I owned. It came with my console back in 2013. I love this game, even though it's not as good as 6 and definitely won't be as good as 7. Still a great way to start with the franchise. Graphics are amazing, still plays hell of well, and it's just a really solid game overall. We've got Forza Horizon 2. This is really where the Horizon series started to take off and find its identity. While not as good as 3, it's still a solid entry in the series, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of racing games. You can pick it up pretty much dirt cheap now, so highly recommend that. Let's get down to Forza Horizon 3. This is the granddaddy, baby. This is the beaut. This is one of the best Xbox One games you will ever play. It's one of the few games that a PlayStation fan will honestly admit they're embarrassed that they don't have in most cases. It is so much fun. There's a ton of stuff to do. The graphics are amazing, especially in with HDR and stuff. This is the racer game to beat, in my personal opinion, and me and my friends have a ton of fun playing this one. Halo 5. Yes. What would be an Xbox collection without a Halo game? Halo 5, I love this game. It's got so many multiplayer options. The campaign was a fun romp. While not as good as what people had hoped or expected, I still think it's a solid game and definitely worthy of anybody's lineup. If you're a shooter fan or you happen to be a Halo fan, this is a no-brainer. Pick it up. Rise, Son of Rome. This is one of the most critically underrated or underappreciated games of our generation. This game still looks like a showcase piece even today. The graphics are that good, and it's actually a lot of fun to play. It does have some repetition with its sort of semi-quick time events and things like that, but otherwise this is a solid game. This is one of those few games that really deserves a sequel. I hope we get it, and I hope this gets an upgrade for the Xbox One X. It would look amazing. Gears of War Ultimate Edition. How can you not own this game if you're a Gears of War fan? Because this game is the game that started it all, but this is the best version of it. They overhauled the graphics. They basically made the original Gears of 1 really ultimate because it's got better graphics, better gameplay, better online. Everything about this game has improved since its original 2006 entry. Highly recommend it, as again, you can pretty much get this for next to nothing these days. Highly recommend this if you're a Gears of War fanatic. Dead Rising 3. Here is another fantastic game that was kind of missed. It came out at launch of the Xbox One, and it is just so much fun. It's a zombie game that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's got some story, but it's got a lot of action. It's got a lot of just crazy stuff going on in it. So Dead Rising 3, definitely great game. Again, you can pick it up pretty much for next to nothing. Highly recommend this game, and number 4 is pretty cool as well. Whew, my hand's getting tired from holding all this crap up. Alright, well, since we're doing Dead Rising here, let me get down to the next one. Dead Rising 4. Fantastic freaking game. Again, it's much like the third one, only improved in some ways. One lack of a feature is the co-op campaign part is no longer there. You can still co-op, but I guess it's just like missions or whatever. This one's on my backlog right now. I'm hoping to get around to this like ASAP. Rare Replay. This is a homage and a throwback to some of the best games you will play on any console. Now, there's a lot of duds on here as well, games that you may not even remember at all. They're from like the 1980s. They look and play like, well, pretty much trash, but there's a lot of great stuff on here too, stuff that will certainly be near and dear to your heart, like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Kazooie 2. You've got, Battletoads from the original NES days. You've got Perfect Dark, you got Perfect Dark Zero, you got Cameo, and so much more. This game is just phenomenal. There's actually 30-something games on this, I do believe, or 30 games in total, so definitely a lot of value, a lot of replay here, hence the name Rare Replay. State of Decay. People that love zombie games, love great action games in general, owe it to themselves to pick this one up. The sequel is on the way. This one was a great start to the franchise. It's a little buggy at times. There's a lot of things about it that could have been better, but there's a lot of stuff that works right as well. Think of it as GTA, is in a sense, with zombies. You kind of get where we're going with that. Pretty cool game. Definitely recommend it. A lot of people hold this one near and dear. Whew, this is a bigger collection than I thought. Recore. Fantastically underappreciated game. A game that, yes, well, it didn't live up to sort of the hype surrounding it. It was still a very solid game. If you're a fan of action platformers, this is a really great game to get. Again, it's very, very inexpensive. It was actually inexpensive at launch. It was a great price. A lot of people passed it over because of some bad community comments or whatever it was, but it is a really good game, to be quite honest with you, and I think the majority of people will actually enjoy this. Quantum Break, another criminally underappreciated game on the Xbox One. This one made by the fantastic team over at Remedy, the people behind Alan Wake and Max Payne and all that stuff. This is awesome. It's got some really great talent involved in the game, some fantastic actors that come together and do this game. It's kind of like a game slash TV show all wrapped in one. Great control, fantastic graphics, very interesting combat system. Quantum Break, people, if you haven't bought this yet, please go out and buy it and support this game because this one definitely deserves a sequel. We may not see it, but it is a fantastic game. Oh, here we go. My favorite game so far of the generation on the Xbox One, it is Rise of the Tomb Raider. I can't tell you how much I love this game. I'm replaying it right now because I just recently picked up all the expansions and stuff for it. Just a beautiful game. Plays well. It's a great return to form for Lara Croft. And if you're a Tomb Raider fan or just a fan of action games in general, this is a game you should have. The original Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. Now, this game came out last gen, or towards the end of last gen, on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Fantastic game, which has been upgraded for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. And it is just a really good game. It's I'd say it's almost up there with Rise of the Tomb Raider, but obviously they made the newer game a little bit better in a lot of different ways. But this is a fantastic game. Pick this one up. Oh, Sunset Overdrive. This is a game that most people are going to say, this was criminally underappreciated. This game is actually fantastic. This one had really good reviews for the most part, but for some reason just didn't take off with a lot of fans. I don't know if it's because it's on the Xbox or if it was just because it wasn't promoted right. I don't know, but this game is a lot of fun. It is done by the incredible team at Insomniac Game, who rarely ever make a dud. It's so much fun to play. It's like nothing else you've really played on the Xbox One to date. It's a third-person action platformer that just has so many wacky weapons and the whole just navigational system of how you get around the city and stuff. It's just really, really cool. Kinect Sport Rivals. Well, if you have a Kinect, I guess this one is kind of a no-brainer. It's a pretty decent game. It's a sequel to Kinect Sports. There's some off-the-wall wacky sports in here, but for the most part, it's not bad. It's got its flaws, but definitely a decent game that'll give you and your family plenty of fantastic hours, whether it be the jet ski or the mountain climbing or whatever it be. It's actually pretty fun. Titanfall. Probably its only drawback was not having an actual campaign. It had sort of a story or some cutscenes in between the multiplayer, but to me that was a pretty lame excuse for a campaign. But otherwise, this game is amazing. The multiplayer is still better than the second one, in my personal opinion, and the opinions of many Titanfall fans. Titanfall, it's a game that you can get on EA Access. You can pick it up cheap, used, or even new. And if you just started out with Titanfall 2, I highly suggest you go back and try the first one if you get a chance, because it is just fantastic. Well, Titanfall 2, here is the sequel, which is the bigger, better version of the game. In most cases, it does have a campaign. The graphics have improved. It is a fantastic game that was sandwiched in between a couple of big hitters last year. Definitely recommend this if you're a fan of Titanfall at all, or even just a fan of shooters. I think you'll like this one. Battlefront. If you're a Star Wars fan, this is a no-brainer. While it may not pay homage to some of the older Battlefront games, it's still a solid shooter that will give you hours and hours of gameplay. It's one of the easier shooters to pick up and play from a newbie experience because, you get some pretty decent weapons at the outset. There's no ammunition clips and stuff like that. It's just a bit easier to play. It has its flaws, but otherwise it's a solid game. Mass Effect Andromeda. This was my most anticipated game of 2017. Unfortunately, it didn't live up to my expectations or the expectations of many fans. It is a great game all the same, and I put many hours into it. I'm not even finished it yet. But Mass Effect Andromeda, again, another great addition to the franchise if you happen to be a fan. Wow, we're getting down to this pile. What can you say? NHL 17, another edition, and probably the best addition to hockey that you can find on the market right now. Pretty much the only edition since 2K doesn't exist anymore. But NHL 17, fantastic game. Can't wait for 18. If you're a hockey fan, it's a no-brainer. Rory McIlroy, PGA Tour. Well, what can you say? You can't really be a sports enthusiast without a good golf game. While I barely play golf myself, and I certainly don't watch it on TV, I do love playing this game. It's quite good. Hopefully they make a sequel, which is a little more feature intensive. This one's a bit of a bare bones game, but otherwise a solid entry. Mad Max, another fantastic third-person action-adventure game that came out just around the time of the Mad Max movie and Fury Road, and it is a fantastic game. It is made by Avalanche Studios, who actually do some pretty good work. Got some good graphics. It's got some really cool story. I think you'll like this one if you're a fan of Mad Max or just open-world third-person action shooters. Pretty decent game. Whew. Resident Evil 7. Now, this is a game I didn't have on my radar per se, but thanks to a fantastic demo and some word of mouth by my friends, I picked this up. I haven't finished it quite yet, but it is really, really good. It's quite a departure from the old Resident Evil games, but it's a departure in a really good way because they went first person, and the graphics and the actual atmosphere of the game itself are super intense. Great game. All right. One on my backlist. Haven't even played this one yet, so I can't really say much about it, other than I heard it was really good, so I picked it up. That is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which right now is a pain in my backlog. Can't have a collection without Batman. Return to Arkham, which is Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Asylum, all on one game disc or two game discs inside of one package. Fantastic game. I'm working my way back through Arkham City at the moment. Love this game. This was two of my favorite games ever on the 360, and they look fantastic with the upgrades on the Xbox One. Batman Arkham Knight, also one of my favorite games on the Xbox One this generation. Outside of maybe a little too much Batmobile and some really weird Riddler missions, this game is an absolute blast. It looks amazing. It's one of the best looking games on any console, period. And I highly suggest you pick this up if you're a fan of the old games and a fan of Batman. This is a must-have. Final Fantasy 15, first Final Fantasy game I think I've ever bought in my life. This one I've heard is really good. It's sort of nothing like the old games, which is probably a good thing for me, but apparently it's on my backlog and I still have to get to it. And all my games are falling down next to me here because the pile is that big. We got Darksiders 2, just recently started playing this game. I played the original one and loved it, and this game is actually better in a lot of ways. Really like Death, he's a cool character, and this is a really good game. Picked it up for cheap, and gets me excited for the new sequel coming out soon. And your collection can't be complete, and who on the earth does not own this game yet? I want to know who that three people are. Grand Theft Auto 5, still at the top of the charts, month in and month out. Love this game to pieces. Love the triple story. Love the graphics. Love all the stuff that happens in this game. Multiplayer is fun too. Grand Theft Auto 5. You pretty much got to have this, in my opinion, if you love open world games, if you're a fan of Grand Theft Auto, and you just want a game that you can technically play for almost forever. So that pretty much brings you to the end. As you can see, the physical collection for my Xbox One. Whew, that was a lot longer and more crazier than I thought. Now, I don't want to be classified as the big-ass fanboy here. So yes, I do have a PlayStation 4, and I got the games to prove it. Now, my collection on PS4 is not quite as big, so this one shouldn't take as long. But let's get down to it, shall we? Fantastic remake, Ratchet and Clank. It looks amazing. It plays amazing. It's also by Insomniac Games. And if you have a PlayStation 4, whether you got kids or you just like action platformers and you're a fan of Ratchet and Clank, this is a must-have game. And it's also, like I said, pretty dirt cheap right now to pick it up anywhere. Highly recommend this one. Almost finished it. Got to finish this one up. Horizon Zero Dawn, which so far is one of my contenders for Game of the Year. It kind of slipped under the radar to some degree. When it came out, it just blew people away. It's been getting high critical acclaim. It's an amazing game. Lots of hours you can put into it. I love how it's got some great action sequences. It's got some really cool enemies. The graphics are just absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend this one by Guerrilla Games, people who made Killzone franchise. Quite a departure for them, but a fantastic game. If you own a PlayStation, I think you need to own this one. Here is one of the best games, if not the best game, of the last generation, The Last of Us by Naughty Dog. It's an amazing game. This is the remastered version, so it looks a little bit better, and it has all the DLC included. If you played the first Last of Us, you pretty much, well, if you played the original game, you know what to expect here, but hey, having the definitive version, it's always a good thing. Uncharted 4, it is pretty much the reason, or one of the reasons I bought a PlayStation 4 to begin with, because I love the Uncharted franchise, always have. I think this is the best one yet in most cases. Well, it's definitely close to number 2, but I really like this one a lot. The graphics are just amazing. Let's hope Nathan Drake does come back at some point. I mean, he's still alive, but apparently he's kind of retired. But this is a really cool game. It's got a pretty lengthy campaign, lots of fun stuff to do, some decent multiplayer as well. Recommend Uncharted 4, and most people have it because it's bundled in with the unit in a lot of cases. Here we go, Guerrilla Games, as I mentioned earlier, Killzone Shadowfall. This is probably one of the weakest Killzone games in the franchise. While it has some great graphics and some cool weapons, this game somehow it just missed the mark. Like, I like it, but at the same time, it's like drawn out. It's got some boring sections. It's not a bad game. If you're a Killzone fan, you probably got it too, but otherwise, like I said, it could have been a lot better. God of War 3, also one of the best games of last generation. This is the remastered edition in 1080p, so it looks a little bit better than the original PlayStation 3 version. This is the reason I owned the PlayStation 3, and I'm glad to add it to my collection on PS4. One of the coolest shooters in a long time, the grandpappy of them all, Doom. This one is the brand new version. It just came out last year. It looks absolutely crazy. Some of the best graphics you're going to see on any console. I love playing this one. It's fast-paced. It's got some great enemies, some cool kills, multiplayer, everything you pretty much want in a shooter. Very intense. If you love shooters, you've always liked Doom, you need this one in your collection. Oh, this was one of those I was torn on getting, but it was kind of dirt cheap. Plus, they've then since improved it since a few updates and things like that. Street Fighter V. It's still a good fighting game. I think it was overrated when it launched, since it was pretty bare bones. Right now, they've added a lot of characters, story mode, a few different things into it. It's a pretty solid fighter. I mean, if you're a fan of Street Fighter, I guess you kind of need to add it to your collection. Plus, it's a PS4 console exclusive at the moment, so whether it ever comes to Xbox or not is anyone's guess, but it's a solid fighter. I kind of liked it, and I picked that up because it was cheap. And lastly, I picked up a copy of Battlefront for my PlayStation 4, so I have it on both consoles because I have friends who like to play it on both consoles, so I picked that one up too, and it's a lot of fun. I don't have to explain this one again, but if you're a Star Wars fan, you like shooters, you should have Battlefront in your collection. And that's kind of it for those consoles. Well, let's move over here. Yes, I have a Nintendo Switch as well. My collection wouldn't be complete without a little portable shithead to take on the go. And here is probably what's going to be Game of the Year for 2017, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Critically acclaimed, sold like hot potatoes. Pretty much almost everybody that bought a Switch bought this game at launch. Mind you, it was pretty much one of the only games at launch. But yeah, still an awesome game. If you love Zelda, you love open world action RPGs kind of thing, this is a great game to have. Not as good in my personal opinion as what people said it was. I've got some flaws with it, but I enjoy playing it. I haven't even come close to finishing it yet, so it's still in my backlog. Got to get to it. And what would be a Nintendo system without, Mario Kart? So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's basically an upgraded version of the Wii U edition. It's got pretty much all the best tracks from all the Mario Kart games of all time, or at least a good portion of them. Lots of tracks, lots of karts, lots of options, fantastic online. This is a doozy to play. It's fun, and it's great in split-screen co-op. Highly recommended. If you have a Switch, get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And that's pretty much it that's like my physical collection. That's not to mention all of the games that I have stored on the hard drive, which I won't get into right now, but I will show you before we leave. You can't play video games with the tools of the trade, so I'm going to just quickly show you my collection of controllers. As you can see down here, this is the one that came with the original Xbox One back in 2013. You'll notice here there's a omission of the audio jack, which means it's the older style controller. It still works just like it did on day one. And then we have the white one that comes with the Xbox One S. I have the Gears of War Crimson Omen Limited Edition. I also have the Limited Edition Halo UNSC Master Chief Edition. It's got that nice kind of metallic finish on the D-pad there. It looks like Master Chief's helmet. Now over here, it's a PDP third-party one, which is actually a wired controller. I just have the wire off it right now. I actually like this controller. It works pretty well, and it's a bit cheaper, so if you're looking to save some money, get a great extra controller. It's not bad. Then I have this awesome beauty right here, my Newf Nukem customized Design Lab controller, which I made it in the style of the Edmonton Oilers. And over here, we've got the standard tools of the trade for PlayStation 4, the one that came with my unit, the standard black, and we have an extra blue one right here. So again, and there's my Nintendo Switch and my extra series of Joy-Cons. Well, that is it for my game rundown, which turned out to be about 15 minutes longer than I had expected, but I hope you enjoy it. Now you've got an inside look at the games that Newf Nukem likes to play, not to mention all the digital stuff I have on my hard drives. I've got lots of games. Who said we got no games? I don't know, but you must be an idiot. Anyway, that's it for my video. You guys have a great day. I'll catch you soon. Newf Nukem, out.